tactical retreat.
Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're ranking all the God of War games based on their levels of difficulty. For this list, we'll be looking at each entry based on what makes them so easy or difficult to overcome, and what their most challenging elements are. Which God of War game did you have the hardest time with? Let us know down in the comments.
Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
God of War: A Call from the Wilds.
For the first time, hear the tale of young Atreus' maiden trip into the perilous Norse wilds, where malice and danger abound.
As a text-based game for Facebook Messenger, A Call from the Wilds was never going to be difficult. This installment is all about filling out the narrative before the events of 2018's God of War. The only challenge is choosing between given scenarios, as Atreus can select different routes for his journey in the Nordic wilds.
Even as he did, the other voice derided the boy, calling him a coward. But if Atreus were to disobey his parents, it would have to come with good reason.
But since all choices lead to the same conclusion, finishing A Call from the Wilds is a matter of how quickly the player goes through it. To its credit, the text-based adventure goes for a deliberately simple narrative style. This is to invite everyone to participate, including people who aren't gamers.
A small quiet question escaped Atreus' lips before he fell unconscious. Father?
God of War: Betrayal. Betrayal best exemplifies God of War's status as part of the hack-and-slash genre. The gameplay is mainly about swinging the blades of Athena at every enemy on screen. Its limitations as a mobile game makes Betrayal pretty simple. All players need to do is attack anything that moves. The lack of aggression in Kratos' foes leads to an even easier experience, as the difficulty level remains stagnant throughout its entire runtime. Occasional enemy hordes and tricky platforming can be surprising, but it's not enough to consider Betrayal a hard game by any means. In terms of the story, the breeziness of the combat shows just how powerful Kratos was during his time as the God of War. God of War: Chains of Olympus. Chains of Olympus is the best entry for new God of War players. On its easier settings, finishing the game won't even make players break a sweat. Meanwhile, the more difficult modes test players' skills outside of their comfort zone. While not particularly grueling, it's challenging enough to deliver an exhilarating experience. Boss battles are by far the simplest in the series, as beating these villains only requires well-timed dodges and subsequent attacks. Quick-time events contribute to Chains of Olympus' simplicity, since players just need to follow on-screen prompts. Things get tougher if enemies corner Kratos, although weapons like Zeus's Gauntlet will turn things around. God of War: Ghost of Sparta. The second PSP game goes for moments of spectacle, such as the destruction of Atlantis and the face-off against the god of death, Thanatos. This doesn't hide the fact that it's still more of the same, which means gameplay is along the same lines as Chains of Olympus. While there are more enemies to contend with, Kratos' abilities as the God of War render them no better than cannon fodder. The most notable change is to boss fights, as these are trickier to tackle. Bosses like Thanatos and Kratos' monstrous mother require some getting used to, but they're still easy to dispose of once players figure out what their weaknesses are. God of War Ascension. Ascension goes for a slightly different approach, with the game featuring elemental powers as part of combat. This brings some diversity to the manner of play, although it doesn't influence its difficulty by much. The main difference here is Kratos' power level, which is lower than what fans are used to. This is because Ascension features a younger Kratos whose offensive moves don't pack as much of a punch. The lack of finesse and combos also makes combat a bit more demanding. Players have to ensure they don't lose too much health since there are fewer energy chests around the map. However, Ascension is so similar to previous installments that fans will see these as little more than minor inconveniences in their journey. God of War 2. The second entry takes a bigger and better approach, amping up all facets of gameplay from the original. Everything from boss fights to platforming and general combat is featured in abundance. God of War 2 is noticeably challenging once the difficulty setting is adjusted, with bosses giving little room for players to make mistakes. It gets progressively more difficult the closer Kratos reaches the Sisters of Fate, but the benefit of simpler controls, powerful weapons, and plenty of quicktime events gives players an edge. Upgrading weapons and magic is a relief as enemies go down to Kratos' barrage of attacks. Those who dedicate their time to learning combos will have an easier playthrough, as practice definitely makes perfect when it comes to God of War 2. God of War 3. The end of the Greek arc brings Kratos' toughest challenges yet, as the might of Olympus goes against him. With powerful attacks of their own, bosses like Hades, Hercules, and Zeus test players' quickness and choice of moves. The game forces fans to improvise, as certain enemy defenses can't be penetrated until weapons like the Nemean Cestus are acquired. God of War 3 also contains the most enemy swarms in the series. This can be a problem in harder difficulties as they tend to attack all together. It helps that Kratos is at his peak of power here, but smarter AI means that repeating the same moves reaps fewer rewards. Although upgrades ease things up a bit, God of War 3 never makes players feel too safe. God of War. The first game seems a lot more difficult in retrospect since Kratos doesn't have the same firepower as he does later on. Enemies tend to go hard with their attacks, with several unblockable ones landing significant damage. More so than other installments, God of War places particular focus on puzzles. These are a challenge of their own, even reaching frustrating levels for those unable to crack them. Despite having few boss fights, God of War gives players a hard time with the ones that are present. The key to success here is to blend combat with well-timed defenses and quick evasions. But not everyone will figure that out in their first playthrough. Its commendable difficulty goes to show that the hack and slash genre is just as much about substance as it is about style. God of War 2018. The Nordic Saga's first chapter is a complete revamp from previous installments. Because of this, every player is essentially a novice when they begin 2018's God of War. The change from a fixed camera to an over-the-shoulder perspective limits Kratos' mobility. as gameplay favors defense over aggression. Certain enemies are immune to particular weapons in Kratos' arsenal, making it necessary for fans to pick their battles. This entry also elevates difficulty levels for side villains like the Valkyries, some of whom are challenging enough to make people rage quit. Even powerful weapons such as the Blades of Chaos lack the variety of combos that Kratos once enjoyed. As such, making it through God of War requires mastery of everything from upgrading weaponry, handling Atreus' bow, and keeping an eye on Kratos' health meter at all times. God of War Ragnarok. While it's technically similar to the previous entry, Ragnarok feels distinct because of its heightened difficulty. This time around, boss fights are hard right from the get-go, while even normal enemies take no mercy. Staying true to its war-based theme, the world in Ragnarok has danger lurking around every corner. Several big-time foes like Thor and Heimdall go toe-to-toe with Kratos, proving to be the greatest threats he's faced yet. The story places the protagonists with their backs to the wall, which is reflected within gameplay as almost every battle is a fight for survival. Difficulty levels like Give Me God of War mode aren't for the faint of heart, as this ultra-hard setting makes the Nordic landscape a hellish place to traverse. All in all, those who don't master the intricacies of solid defense and skill upgrades will find Ragnarok too difficult to overcome.
Fuck! That's all this is!
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, there's more where that came from.